Chairman. Mr. Gabriel, you're the administrator, the CEO of the Western Area Power Administration, and in that role, the territory that you serve includes California, as well as parts of Texas and other states affected by the cold weather we had last month. So I have a series of very short questions for you. Do you agree that we should produce electricity from a diverse set of energy resources, including resources that are capable of producing electricity at all times of day and night?
Yes, I do.
Great. And would the blackouts that we witnessed in California last August, would they have been avoided if California had simply installed more solar panels?
I do not believe that that would be the case. Of course, you need a diversity of generating resources, Senator.
So would the blackouts that we witnessed in Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas last month, would they have been avoided if these states had simply installed, say, more wind turbines?
Again, I think a diverse portfolio is required to keep all of these grids operating. It's really one of the foundational concepts for the grids in the United States.
Would the impact of the blackouts that we witnessed in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and elsewhere last month have been worse if no one had access to natural gas and everyone had to rely on electricity to heat their homes?
Well, again, not operating the grid in Texas, but certainly making sure that we've got diverse portfolios, which certainly in this day and age need to include natural gas.
And would the impact of the blackouts that we witnessed in California in 2019 and 20 and across the middle of the country last month, would they have been even worse if everyone, including emergency responders, had to rely exclusively on electricity to power their vehicles?
Well, again, we've got to make sure that we've got sufficient supply and sufficient generation, whether it's vehicles, whether it's powering homes or businesses. It's crucial to have a real diverse portfolio.
Mr. Schellenberger, first, thanks for making the trip coming here all the way from Berkeley, California. You've written, and you say, quote, California's big bet on renewables and shunning of natural gas and nuclear is directly responsible for the state's blackouts and high electricity prices. Could you expand upon your comments for the committee?
Well, sure. There was a root cause analysis published by the California Public Utilities Commission, the California Energy Commission, and the California grid operator, CAISO, which made a very similar point, though in a more muted fashion. That point was made very dramatically in the midst of the crisis last August in a conference call with reporters, where the grid operator specifically pointed to the closure of San Onofre nuclear power plant, which was about 2,200 megawatts of power, as well as the closure of natural gas plants as really the main factors that resulted in the shortage of energy.
You've written a bit, and you said, quote, some have long pointed to batteries as the way to integrate unreliable renewables onto the grid. However, batteries, you say, are simply not up to the task today. And you went on to explain, indeed, for renewables to work, batteries would need to be able to store the power for weeks and perhaps even months. Can you expand upon the comments for the committee?
Sure. Well, we have one of the largest battery installations in the world in Escondido, California, and it provides power for 16,000 Californians for about 4 hours. There's almost 40 million Californians. The cost is prohibitively high, and in fact, most advocates of renewables now no longer think that lithium batteries are going to be an important form of storage beyond managing minutes or hours. But as I pointed out, the reason that Germany was able to prevent similar power outages this year was simply that they maintained a very large coal, natural gas, and nuclear fleet to be available when the sun is not shining and the wind is not blowing.
Thanks, Mr. Schellenberger. Mr. Robb, if I could ask you, in your written testimony, you made the following observation. You said, over the years, NERC's assessments have continued to identify 3 areas of primary concern: California, Texas, and New England. While recent events in the central South and western parts of the country have attracted national attention, New England is another region that you have said has identified as particularly vulnerable to extreme cold weather. You noted that New England's problems include its limited pipeline capacity to import gas and its dependence on a handful of critical fuel assets. So in light of the problems, should we discourage the construction of new natural gas pipelines or retire power plants that are capable of producing electricity at all times?
Thank you for that question, Senator Barrasso. And we strongly believe that more natural gas infrastructure and natural gas infrastructure, including storage, pipeline capacity needs to be a strong policy focus. New England desperately needs more gas capacity to be resilient to the winter.
Mr. Chairman, finally, I have an article that was in Green Tech Media from last August titled, "California's Shift from Natural Gas to Solar is Playing a Role in the Rolling Blackouts." The article quotes the CEO of the California grid operator as saying, "The situation we are in could have been avoided." The article goes on to say that the California grid operator has told California regulators for years that there is inadequate power available during the hours when the solar generation has left the system. I ask unanimous consent, Mr. Chairman, that we include this article in the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.